Hey, welcome to today's Legal Minutes. Me, Big B, the anti-lawyer. So there's been a civil suit filed as it relates to the Glendale Police Department using what's being debated as maybe excessive force on a gentleman that they pull over. And I'm going to look at it from both perspectives of this particular case. So the lawyers for the police officers, the first thing they're going to look at is when the police come up to the car and ask him for his identification, he should have complied. If he complied, then the argument is going to be nothing would have happened from there. That gentleman's lawyers are going to argue that he wasn't a threat. Sure, maybe he didn't comply right away, but he made a request of why he was being pulled over and why he was being asked for his identification. He wasn't a threat. So point number two, at a point within the video, the gentleman in the car reaches down into his bag. The police officer tells him to stop rummaging in his bag and get his hands up. At that point in time, the lawyers for the police are going to say that the police had a reasonable threat at that point to apply that arm lock. The lawyers for the gentleman are going to say, hey, at that point he complied. He pulled his hands out, and plus the seatbelt's around his shoulder, which is preventing him from fully complying with the police, something the police should have noted on the scene. Number three, it's the ending, okay? The police apply the arm lock, another officer comes over, and they start to tase him. He falls on the ground, the seatbelt is still tied around him, making it hard, if not impossible, for him to lay flat on the pavement, and then they continue to tase him multiple times over and over and over again. The lawyers for the police are going to argue that that was needed and it was a reasonable use of force to subdue that guy who was fighting them, kicking them, arguing them, and the scene was escalating to the point the police needed to do that for their own safety. The lawyers for the gentleman are going to say, hey, all of those tasers were not needed. Even if you want to say one was reasonable, the continued use of the taser was completely unreasonable. At one point in the video, they tell him to stop kicking. It's hard to even see if that kick was violent or not, but his lawyers are going to argue that there was just clearly an excessive use of force with that taser. So I know this is a highly debated issue currently. I know we all respect the incredibly hard job police officers have to do every day. But just like any profession, there's some times where people take it a little too far. And I think to curb that, debate is required. And so we're doing that here today. Leave your comments and questions below. I will get to all of them as always. And until next time, this is Big B, the anti-lawyer.